recycling. Maybe I'll start off with the recycling. 1 second. This was our motivation. This compost bag was rejected by the city, and I spoke with the city representative, Angelica, and she explained why. She said that paper has been tried in the past, and that people are putting materials that damage the equipment, and so they had to go with the alternative bags, which are 1 second. Well, I have them in my bag, but you're familiar with the translucent bags. Well, she gave me a list of the bags that are approved, and I went online just to confirm what I already knew. There are 6 approved vendors, and they all make roughly the same type of bag. And if anybody has used these, they know that they decompose while they're in the box. You tear them out and they rip apart. They're terrible. So I'm just suggesting that we find an alternative, because people are not using or not recycling their yard waste like they should be, or like they could be, if we made it more user-friendly. That's my only suggestion. I think that the companies would be happy to work with the city. We just have to find, the time and motivation to do it. The second thing is concerned with safety, in particular bicycle safety, and this is an item that my wife and I were driving around at night, and we fairly regularly see people without any kind of lights, any kind of reflectors, dark clothing. We've almost run over people, and of course everybody knows people that will say the same thing. So we ride bicycles. My proposal is not that we increase the regulations. There's already regulations in place in the city. Bicycles are supposed to be registered. They're supposed to have a light on the front and a reflector on the back. I would suggest that the city put together or fund a campaign, a citywide campaign, to get bicyclists to voluntarily put peer pressure on one another to put lights on, put reflectors on, wear light clothing or reflective clothing.
Thank you, sir. Your time has expired.
Excuse me, I was told I had 3 minutes each. When
It's a total of 3 minutes, but don't go away. Great idea about the bicyclists. One of the reasons that we're working with critical mass, which is a lot of bike riders in Houston,
right,
is to try to convince them to put peer pressure on each other to clean up their act. But Chair recognizes Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Do you have something you can wrap up very quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, then we can extend it.
Let me protest. There's been 3 or 4 people that haven't showed up. I specifically called.
Right, but everyone is given 3 minutes, so maybe the misinformation. But if you would like to finish briefly your comments, I'm offering you my time.
Okay, thank you. The third item is concerning fire safety. I spoke to one of the fire chiefs about what their role is in determining whether a building is fire safe, whether fire can be put out quickly and efficiently. Because I've been led by a lawyer to the conclusion that if a building meets code, the fire department has automatically signed off on it. This chief, this captain, said no. The fire department has to deal with whatever they are presented with. If there's a fire in a building, they have no say over how it's constructed or how easily it is to put out. And he gave me the example, and I have a photo of it here. For example, this type of truss construction, where they have these metal plates that just have prongs that go into the wood. If that truss catches on fire, it's in the roof, those plates immediately are ejected by the swollen wood, and that roof is coming down. And he said, we know this, it's done because it's a cheaper construction, and for the most part it works well. But he is not going to put his firemen in danger underneath that kind of roof. So that building is going to burn to the ground. And he said that's just a fact. He gave another example of a building, an apartment complex that has a courtyard in the center. And often, he'll see that he cannot get his truck in there to get to the back of that building. He may be able to talk to the owner and they'll remove a tree or something that he can get in. But other than that, he has no say. So my point is, to wrap it up, is twofold. A suggestion that if there's a complicated or a new, difficult type of building, that the local captain be authorized to at least look at the plans and say, yes, I think we can put out a fire here. And if not, we need to call in these resources, or maybe if they change X, Y, Z, they could, it would be a safer building. The second thing, I don't know if this is done already, but I would suggest that the city impose a requirement that the captains are required to put together a plan that says, this is how we're going to deal with emergencies in our covered district. The same way a refinery would, we are, let him evaluate the difficult buildings, the difficult intersections, and say, yes, we can cope with this, or if not, we need to bring in X, Y, Z resources from our neighboring fire departments. I hope that's being done already, but it suggests that it should be done if it's not. And that's all. Done.
There's still Councilmember McHugh. The fire department, there is a fire review of building permits. So I assure you that does happen. And those who are assigned to the local fire stations are expected to have a good understanding of what the conditions are in their area and a plan for how they would fight fires in the various buildings in their assigned area. Chair recognizes Councilmember Christie.
Mr. Clark, could you tell us briefly what they didn't like about the paper bag that's biodegradable? And I mean, it doesn't make sense, but go ahead.
Yeah, it says right on here, compostable, so the bag will deteriorate appropriately. But what they said was that people are putting inappropriate items into the bag, maybe metal or other things that tear up the threshing equipment. That this is for yard waste, and so I can envision that this goes into some big thrasher and with teeth, and if there's metal in there, it tears up the equipment. So they said that they can't see what's inside these kind of bags, and that makes sense.
Oh, I see, but they can't see.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't seem like a problem with the product as it is for the people putting stuff in.
Right. I don't know.
Because I would like paper for that, but I can see. It's not see-through.
A heavier translucent bag might be a solution.
Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.